Hey there YouTube, welcome to Big Mike Beard Wisdom. So today we'll be tackling this headlight and we're going to be using these two 3M products. So the first one here is a Headlight Restoration System. So this does the sanding, the refining, and the polishing. And then this one here is a quick Headlight Clear Coat. So technically I guess two kits. And the reason why I really wanted to use 3M was because back in the day, so we're talking back like 2003, 2004, when I was working at another shop, we used to do headlight restorations and we would use 3M's kit. So there was basically two products. There was like a cleaner and a polish. And the cleaner more or less was just an abrasive that got rid of most of the extra stuff from your sanding. And then the polish was like the final coating, I think, that basically cleaned everything up and made it look really good. So I was really excited to try and get back to that. The products seem to have changed over the years. And essentially, I wanted to give this a shot just to see. And the idea of a clear coat wasn't a thing back then. So back then, you just cleaned it up, polished it, and away she went. And what we'll be doing is we'll be doing this headlight here and this fog light. And what'll be interesting with this fog light is it looks like it's got at least one crack in it. So it'll be interesting to see how much it makes that crack stand out. And there's a pretty good kind of scratch right there. And I wonder if it'll take out some of that scratch. With the Headlight Restoration System, it comes with rubbing compound. It comes with like a drill attachment. So this is a gray refining disc, 3000 grit. It's got gold 500 grit sanding discs. It's got white 800 grit sanding discs. And then basically you wind up supplying a drill, a bottle of water, masking tape, and a microfiber cloth. And some nasty lights. The first step is to clean the headlight area with soapy water. So this is just Dawn dish soap mixed with water. The first big step is preparing the lens and the drill, and essentially you wind up cleaning the lens off with soap and water, and then you wind up getting a drill, and they want you to run between 1200 to 1600 max RPM. Now I don't know where mine runs, so I'm just gonna run on high. And then you want to remove the yellow layers and defects. So for this, you wind up using the gold P500 disc attached to the disc pad holder in the drill, and use medium to light pressure to sand it down. And then it says that whenever the disc is clogged or no longer sanding effectively, replace with a new gold disc. And they give you several of them, so I'm willing to bet I'll wind up using a handful of them on the size of this headlight, but we'll find out. And then you wind up wiping off the lens and inspecting it, similar to what we did. Well, let's not talk about that one. So then you wind up wiping off the lens and inspecting it to make sure that everything looks like you've sanded enough and everything's even. They also recommended putting on tape to protect any painted surfaces, and they recommended putting on 2 layers. I have about 4, just because I know me and I get a little crazy sometimes with the sandpaper, especially as I'm getting kind of tired. I'll start to just wing it more and not pay as close attention as I should. And from the instructions, it sounds like you don't wet sand it, you're just straight up sanding it. So first, we'll hit the fog light. So it looks like it does a lot pretty quick. And the big thing that you're looking for is kind of stuff like this. So you can kind of see this light shiny spot. This light shiny spot is the UV clear coat that's still on there that you haven't worked through yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to focus on like this center section here and this edge until it's all a uniform level of like white haze or gray haze. So far it's doing pretty good. The disc is loading up a little bit, but it's still cutting fairly well. So I think I'm starting to get a reduction in the cut. So I'll go ahead and swap this out. I might be able to just thump the pad and clear it off, but they gave us plenty of these gold ones, so might as well change it out and use the other ones. And I don't want to spend too much time on the fog light. So real quick, I'll see how far I can get on the headlight, and then we'll revisit the fog light in a little bit to finish touching that one up. So I really loaded that one more so than the other ones. So I'm going to go back with some of these other ones, see if we can't reuse the discs just a little bit. We're in trouble now. This is the last gold disc. And if we look at the headlight, I haven't even hit this section yet. This section's doing relatively all right, but it still needs a lot of work. So you can see the seam here. I've got worked through some of these spots, but there's still a fair amount of the haze here and the old UV protectant and stuff like that here that needs to be worked through. Same thing with up here. So up here we've got continents. So there's a few over here. This isn't half bad back here. And the sanding is the most important part, because you want to get all the way through the junk on the lens first. The more time you spend getting all the way through the junk, the better everything else looks, because the next steps are just removing your sand scratches. So we're gonna have to pivot. I'm gonna get some other sandpaper and then start just wet sanding this by hand. Okay, so what I wound up having to do was take a little bit of 180 grit sandpaper, try and get rid of all the oxidation or discoloration type stuff, then come through with 320, try and do that in order to get rid of the sand scratches from the 180. Then I used one of these 320 sponges, sanding sponges, to help kind of clean that up. And that allowed us to make the best use of the very last gold roll and get to this point where essentially we've now sanded all the old sand scratches off and have a relatively uniform scallopy finish from using the disc. Everything's all wiped down. You can see it's kind of even. The thing that you're looking for is like these shiny spots here. So this is an area where it didn't break all the way through, but I'm fine with that on the fog lamp because this area here will be kind of hidden by the trim down below. And some of this will work its way out as we continue to work with the next sanding disc. There's a spider on my freshly sanded headlight. Go away, go away, go away. So the goal now is to take the 800 grit white pad and remove the sand scratches from the 500 grit. This will go a lot quicker, and we may even wind up using less material or less discs, just because normally whenever you're removing the sand scratches, it's way easier than trying to get rid of all that discoloration and the previous UV coating. But it seems like 3M knew that, so they only gave us 4 of these. So Fingers crossed. All right, so that was fairly impressive. That one disc got the majority of the way through the light. I'm gonna wait for this to dry, and then what I'm gonna look for is anywhere where we've got more scratches that are pretty deep. So right away, right in this area here, there's a couple long scratches going this way. And then right here, this area right here looks like it needs to be hit a little bit more. So what I'll try and do is come back with the 500 grit real quick, try and hit some of these areas that look like they need to be tuned up, and then come back with another 800 grit sandpaper. Because the big thing to remember is that all the time that you put into this, the sanding makes a huge difference. So the better this turns out, the more uniform this is, the more even, and the better it looks now is really going to dictate how it looks at the end. The one trick that I'm kind of running into is that with this pad, it's nice and squishy. So if you've got curves and edges in your lights, what I recommend is as you go over that curve and edges, don't be pushing this all the way down. Just come over it so it's just slightly depressed, and then slowly curve over. And then what it'll do is it'll help keep this from whacking in case this isn't 100% aligned. So if you look, there's a little bit of wobble to it. So if we go up and over, you leave that so it's not fully compressed, and it makes the transition really easy. This is turning out fairly well. A little bit different than hand sanding it. So given that the orbit kind of changes a little bit, it's not like 100% the same appearance as it would look if you were doing it with like just sandpaper. But for the most part, I've got a pretty good consistent amount of the 800 grit sand scratches on there. Looks like the other sand scratches are pretty much gone. Here's the fog light. It's doing pretty good too. You can see that scratch fairly prominently, and there's even like a little rock chip right there in the headlight, which is interesting. But it's kind of cool seeing what you unearth in the light as you do this. So now what we're going to do is we'll take this gray-green P500 cloth, and we're going to put it on the drill. And then this is the first time that you actually do any kind of wet sanding with it. And then you'll moisten the pad, and you'll moisten the light, and go ahead and wet sand with it. And the kind of cool part is that with each step, they've left like a little disclaimer that says that the more sanding you do, the better. And really, like if you're saving any of the sand discs for anything, I don't know why. You might as well use it, that way you get the best possible outcome. Now this flings pretty good. So I haven't hit like full on high speed yet. There we go. So with this one, it should look relatively clear and pretty decent looking, which it does. That looks kind of good. I may wind up hitting a couple spots just because it looks a little strange with the how it rotated, and then so this way it looks shiny, that way it doesn't, and then as soon as you turn it over, it inverses, so that side's shiny, that side's not. Real quick, I'm just doing a simple like condition check more or less. So as I'm buffing it, it is becoming more clear, and I probably need to sit and work on some of these spots just a little bit more. But the key is to kind of watch for situations like this where maybe that's like 500 grit sand scratches. So I may need to come back with the 800 a little more to help clean this up. But we'll keep with this one for now, see how it goes. All right, so this is looking pretty good. I went at it pretty good with that gray-green cloth, and it's pretty clear right now, but you can definitely see like the swirl marks from that cloth, or the sanding disc, gray-green sanding disc thing. Whew, it's been a long day already. If you're going to do this yourself, definitely make sure you've got extra batteries, because I've gone through one big battery and I'm now running the small battery on the drill. I thought for a second there the drill was dying. Luckily it was just the battery. All right, so next step, take the rubbing compound, put it on the compound pad, put about a dime size worth on the pad, smear it around in the light a little bit, and then go to town. So I'm gonna knead it just in case. I don't know if it actually separates or not, but better safe than sorry. Oh, that tore not how I wanted it to tear. So that's a bit more than a dime size, but what I want to do is first get it kind of bounced around on the light and all over the pad a little bit. Whoa, too much. Okay, and the reason why I wanted to do that first was because I was going to try and do this real quick, and this might make a mess, so just be ready, it may fling. Oh, there's no may. Oh. All right, so there's the fog light. Looks pretty good. Now to do the headlight. Oh, a little more secret sauce. Bloop, 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 bloop. All right, so this came out really, really good. So as you can see, it's very much better than it was before. It's pretty clear. There's some minor scratches and stuff that are still kind of visible. And it's so clear that there's certain things that you notice that you maybe wouldn't have. So like the crack in this fog lamp lens, or there's like a little bit of like a dirt moisture kind of in there, so it's basically almost like a dust has just settled in the corner. But all in all, that came out pretty good. Now to try and protect it, now it's time to add the quick Headlight Clear Coat. And this is only a little confusing because it seems like it's got instructions for how to do this. Seems like it comes with the P500 green gray disc for you to like sand it down, and then it wants you to refer to the directions on the wipe packet before opening for how to apply the 3M Quick Headlight Clear Coat wipe, which is this. So I would assume that as soon as you open this, it's gonna be time to go. So real quick, I threw a glove on just to be safe. And then it says to be sure to allow 1 hour after the coating is dried before exposing to rain or other precipitation. And effective use of this requires proper surface prep as described in the directions. And I'm not 100% sure as to how long this is supposed to last, but apparently 4 times longer. So, oh, I could have opened this earlier. So, looks like I got a spare one of these now. Maybe I'll take that to a set of headlights or taillights somewhere. And 2 packs of the Headlight Clear Coat. This is kind of interesting because essentially it wants you to start with a clean, dry surface that has already been sanded with the P500 abrasive. Headlights should look smooth, but will still be hazy. Do not unfold the wipe. And optional, put on a disposable glove before handling wipe. Carefully open wipe packet, slowly apply coating using a crisp edge of the folded wipe, slightly overlap passes. Apply 1 coat to both headlights. Let dry for 5 to 15 minutes until dry to touch. Once dry, open second wipe packet and repeat process to apply final coat to each headlight. Allow 1 hour of dry time before driving or exposing to precipitation. So now you know why they want you to read the packet separate, because going off the back of the box wasn't enough. I would have had no idea that I would have had done a second coat. All right. So, folded edge is just this side. And let's do this hopefully without screwing up. Slide overlap. Now it does seem like I'm getting a little bit of a drip about right here and right there. So I don't know if that's something to care about, or if you just keep right on trucking. This would probably be way easier if this fog light was all scratched up, because with it being nice and smooth, I don't really know if I missed a spot. And I don't know if you can retouch it up, or if this sets up super quick and that'll be a problem. So we'll come down the edges real fast. All right. So it looks like if you try and come back through, it can smear. Whereas before you had like a perfectly crisp edge. So hopefully I didn't screw that up. And don't worry, I remembered the fog light. Now you'll probably land on your face. Peanut butter side down. Just some quick touch points. All of this was done basically in the shade. So I've got it in kind of like the garage door. So it's not in the garage. That way it doesn't catch like all that junk in the garage and coat everything. The other thing is that a lot of times these recommend not doing them in direct sunlight. And I wonder if it's because it causes things to bake off too fast, or maybe causes it to dry or to heat up or something like that it doesn't want. So all of this was done in the shade as well. And then whenever I'm done applying the second coat, I'm gonna back it back up in the garage and let it sit and chill for that hour. So it's not gonna be exposed outside in the sunlight. It's gonna be in the back, in the dark, drying, hopefully not bugged by anything but the flies, and hopefully no flies land on it. But when I was a tech, we used to charge about an hour to do a headlight. Now this is a gigantic headlight, so with the size of this light, that's a lot of work that goes into one single light. So with this, I'm not 100% sure you could do 2 of these headlights. You would definitely need 2 kits, and the way that the sandpaper stuff ran out, I almost needed 2 kits just for one light to handle the sandpaper. So if you've got a really bad light and it's pretty big, what I would recommend is essentially to get a little bit of extra sandpaper, do the sanding by hand with the first sandpaper, like the extra stuff you bought, until you get most of the way through the oxidation, the color, the discoloration, and then go ahead and start using this kit. This came out pretty good so far. I'm glad they give you a second run at it, because re-wiping was a mistake. So I can see like peaks and valleys. So I made little like divots and runs in this by wiping it again. So this time around, I'm gonna try and be really careful and wipe only once. Yep, everything's good and dry. Oh, I lost where it was. Hopefully we're doing okay. No whammies, no whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Missed the spot. Finish it. Okay. Call that good. There is a little bit of a run right there. Otherwise, I'd say we're good. Ah, there's a run right there now too. Oh no. Oh, a little bit of a run there. Oh man. Headlight restoration kits are not for perfectionists. Oh, sorry buddy. You would like a second coat too, huh? Who's the prettiest girl in town? This is pretty much all set up now and safe to touch. So I'll be installing this back in place. And it looks like it did a pretty good job. The fog light is probably small enough you can't tell there's any imperfections in that clear coat. And the system did a really good job of cleaning this up and making it look almost brand new. It still has some pretty good divots, but it's a fog light. It catches rocks. Kind of one of those things that's going to happen. And then with this kit, it doesn't have anything like a big heavy clear coat that goes on that's going to fill it in. So same thing with this little rock chip that's over here. That's still visible in the headlight. And while this came out really, really good, I think with the sanding, the polishing, and everything else, I'm not super impressed with that coating. And I'm curious if somehow I went with the wrong 3M protecting coating, and if there's another one out there that does better. Because this one does have a few runs in it. But all in all, this does look awesome. So it looks way better than it did before. Night and day difference. I'm very pleased with it. Probably spent about 3 hours on it between filming and actually doing the work. And a lot of that time is spent trying to get everything just right. So all the extra time that you can put into sanding and making sure that everything's correct before you wind up doing a final coating or like a final polish will pay dividends in the long run. The lights on the left are the 3M repaired lights. Lights on the right are the Sylvania repaired lights, and they're both about equal. Both kits improve the vision of both sets of lights. Here's the headlights on the Astra. It fixed both the low beams, and here's the high beams on the Astra. And the high beams. And then to compare the differences, here's the inside view of the back of the garage door. The lights on the right are the repaired side. Lights on the left are the not repaired yet side. And you could definitely see a light output difference for both the fog light and the headlight. So the headlight seems to primarily have a brighter center of the beam. The fog light looks like it casts a much wider beam now. We'll check high beams. The fixed side is much brighter. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to like and subscribe. I'll check you next time. All right, so that's sideways. So I did 2 different restoration kits, one from Sylvania, one from 3M, and so far 3M wins with the biggest mess.